Ready to pass that Maryland real estate exam? You have found the perfect video that's going to review one of the 6 topics on the Maryland real estate exam. The topic we go through is brokerage relationship, and I'm going to do a deep dive into disclosures, the topic of dual agency. Stay towards the end because I break down dual agency and how it is different in our state of Maryland. Maryland disclosures is the topic today. When we are looking at the real estate exam, the topic on the Maryland real estate exam has 6 topics. One of them, which produces the most questions, is brokerage relationship. You might see it also labeled as agency. The 7 questions on the salesperson exam, and also on the broker exam, you get 7 questions out of the 30 questions on the salesperson and 40 for the broker exam. This topic of agency, what are the topics that you need to be aware of? They include the topic of listing agreements when you're working with a seller or a landlord. What should you do when you meet with the public in terms of disclosure of agency? It then gets into the other 2. When you are involved in a transaction or helping family, what do you need to disclose and how? And another repeat, this is very broad, on the topic of disclosure. The topic of disclosure is where we shall now get into the forms that are provided by the Maryland Real Estate Commission. We started off with the Understanding Home Agents Represent, and we have a video on that. Check out the description. We also covered the open house notice. Today, we're going to focus on these 2. Consent to dual agency, how dual agency works here in Maryland. At the very end, we shall do a very good summary for you to understand how dual agency works in Maryland, because it's very different in other states. The topic of dual agency is also presented when you are part of a team within a brokerage. Those 2 documents is what we're going to focus on in this session. At a later time, we shall finish off this series by going into the residential property disclosure disclaimer statement, so stay tuned. The focus, as mentioned today, is dual agency. We have a 2-page document known as Consent to Dual Agency. Staying on the same topic of dual agency, we shall then go into the document Notification of Dual Agency within a team. The forms are provided by the Maryland Real Estate Commission. You are able to go online and search for their website. Right on the home page, scroll down, and you will see those forms presented there. Anytime these are updated, you will definitely need to come here, but your broker team manager or leader or your mentor are definitely going to present that to you. This is the illustration for me that simplifies the topic of dual agency. You have the egg being the client, buyer, seller, landlord, or tenant. They're a client because they have signed an agreement, and it's very fragile because we have one broker that is tackling the buyer and the seller, or the landlord and the tenant. So it's very delicate because the broker is the one who's supervising the agents on each side. Another way you will see this is, some of us will appreciate this. You have the broker or the designee of the broker tackling this transaction. The agents, the people who are working on behalf of the broker, will be referenced to as intracompany agents. There'll be Brenda working for the seller, and then there'll be Kevin, for example, working for the buyer. Brenda and Kevin both work within the same company. This is how we tackle dual agency here in Maryland. In order for dual agency to exist, we're going to tackle these 2 pages. The title of the document is Consent to Dual Agency, and it starts off How can it happen? What do you need to consider before giving permission for dual agency? What are your choices? And then it will go through the duties of the dual agent, which is the broker, and the intracompany agents who are working on behalf of the broker. Now we go through, how is this document filled out? Remember again, in order for dual agency to exist, we need permission. It has to be disclosed, and we need permission, we being the brokers and the agents working on behalf of the broker. Consent is permission. So remember, consent is permission. We need permission up front from your client. Your client, buyer, seller, tenant, or landlord will give permission up front to acknowledge that, hey, there's a possibility that you might be buying a property that's listed by our company, or we might get a buyer, dear seller, who's going to be coming in with an agent and we're of the same company. So then permission is going to be granted up front. Illustration here on page 2 of the document is how I would fill it out in order to get permission in writing. The consent permission here is Sam the seller is given Anaya Real Estate the permission that when they list 1812 Baltimore Annapolis Boulevard in Annapolis, Sam the seller is acknowledging that, hey, we at Anaya Real Estate are now able to show this house. Whether the buyer is going to see the house with someone who works at Anaya Real Estate or not. So here's where we're given permission that anyone under this real estate company, Anaya Real Estate, is able to show the house. Sam the seller gave permission as indicated here, an example on October 26th. Let's assume now you have a buyer. When you meet with your buyer, you're going to have certain disclosures as well and some documents to go through. When I meet with a buyer, Betty Buyer here, I am going to have her acknowledge and give permission of me, Brenda, who works at Anaya Real Estate, to be able to show Betty, the buyer, any property listed under Anaya Real Estate. So Betty permission gave me permission. Remember, she has the choice to say no. And when she says no, what happens? Then Betty Buyer, I will not be able to show you any property listed under Anaya Real Estate. The buyer and the sellers, landlords and tenants always have the choice to refuse to give permission for the possibility of dual agency happening. We then go to the next step. The next step is confirmation. So here in review, we gave permission up front, or rather we received permission up front from the buyer, seller, landlord, or tenant. When it actually happens, we're going to confirm that. And that's affirmation. It's still on the same document. Both parties are going to confirm that now we have dual agency. The illustration provided here as an example is where, remember, Sam seller listed the property 1812 Baltimore Annapolis Boulevard in Annapolis with Anaya Real Estate. Sam the seller gave permission for anyone in Anaya Real Estate to show the property. Betty Buyer gave permission as well. In this scenario, Betty Buyer has now bought Sam seller's property, and they're both going to confirm that, yep, we're in a situation where we have dual agency, and Anaya Real Estate is going to be representing both Betty Buyer and Sam seller. Keep in mind, the agents involved, Brenda, who's working for Sam seller, is working under Anaya Real Estate. And then we have Kevin, who's working with Betty Buyer. It's still going to be two different agents or salespeople or licensees working with the buyer or the seller, one working for the landlord, one working for the tenant. So dual agency is where it's one company representing both sides. When we have the scenario of a team, so a team is a collective of people or a collection of people who are working together and representing themselves as one, they're still going to be under a brokerage. There's a highly likelihood that someone within the team has a seller and most likely someone within the team might have a buyer. When that happens, then we're going to have an additional form, which is labeled notification of dual agency within a team. So buyer and seller, landlord or tenant, are going to sign 2 dual agency forms when they're working with an individual that works within a team. And this is being signed when the contract is being written or when the lease is being signed. So both people acknowledged to dual agency at the beginning within the company, and now they obviously will know that these people are part of a team, and therefore this document is going to be filled out. Let's do a quick recap. When we're talking about dual agency, a couple things to remember is that the dual agent is the broker, the person who's heading the company, supervising all of the people within that brokerage. Or the broker can designate someone to work on their behalf. What's an example of that? If we have 3 offices, then the manager of the 3 said offices could be the dual agent for any transactions within that office. The agents involved working for the clients, meaning the buyer, seller, landlord, or tenant, it's going to be 2 agents involved. They'll be referenced to as intra-company agents. So in order for dual agency to exist, a small company can perform dual agency if there's a minimum of 3. How do we come up with a 3? 1 is a broker, and then the other 2 are going to be the intra-company agents. 1 has the seller, landlord, the other has the buyer, tenant. It needs to be disclosed and acknowledged up front. We went through the document, which you can find on the Maryland Real Estate Commission website. The other thing is that when it happens, we need to confirm that yes, we are now in a situation of dual agency. Quick note here, it has to be the same company, same transaction. There are times when your seller is going to be purchasing a property and you can represent them in the selling part of their house and the buying part of their house. That's not dual agency. Dual agency is, again, the broker is a dual agent. I have the seller, someone else has the buyer. Same company, same transaction. Naturally, the consumer, if you're watching this, you're looking to pass your exam anyway, you might be concerned, well, Brenda and Kevin work in the same company. Are they going to be sharing information? We are under strict guidance under the Code of Ethics and Agency Laws is that confidential matters are only discussed with the dual agent. When you are my client, we have signed an agreement, and I am now bound to keep your matters confidential to do with your financial side of the picture and as to why you want to buy or sell or lease. That is confidential and only shared with the dual agent. That's why the dual agent cannot be one of the intra-company agents because the dual agent is a third party. Hopefully that helped. I hope that if you are eligible to schedule your real estate exam, I challenge you, schedule your exam as soon as possible. The quicker you get that done, the quicker you start making the money or doing what is it that you want it to do with your real estate license. The breakdown of the real estate exam from the PSI, the testing facility, and this bulletin is going to be found in the description as well. There's 6 topics. Don't worry, we have provided this in the description below, broken down into duties and powers. You're seeing the breakdown of the questions, licensing requirements, brokerage relationship, as you can tell, produces the most question, especially for you taking the salesperson exam. The other 3 are supervision. What is a broker supposed to do? Business conduct. And then we have our code of ethics. We definitely have plenty more videos on our channel. Definitely subscribe. More resources that you can use. One of them, I'm going to repeat it again, is going to be our YouTube channel. If you have not subscribed, this is your opportunity for you to do so. We are striving to post at least once a week. I also offer tutor sessions. Sometimes you just want to have that one-on-one. Definitely our calendar is available on our schedule, on our description, sorry, or you can go to trainingwithbrenda.com. Sometimes you might like to be part of a group, and that's okay. We facilitate that on the first Saturday. We go through the Maryland law for 90 minutes, starting at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. And then if you're watching this and you're looking to also pass the national part of the exam, where it doesn't matter where you are in the country, that session is offered on the second Thursday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Our website has all the details, trainingwithbrenda.com. I hope to see you next time and looking forward to connecting with you. Here's our contact information with our telephone number and how you can contact us, email or website. Or some of us, you are now technology savvy that you are able to scan the QR code. Go ahead and do so. I look forward to connecting with you and growing your real estate career. Take care.